Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting of the Board of Education. Today is June 29th, 2026 to order. Mr. Zink, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Argo, Mr. Horton, Mr. Wynn.
Here.
Ms. Schaefer.
Here.
Ms. Casper.
Here. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay. Even better.
I need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
A second.
Thank you. Any discussion on the agenda? It's all up to you two
Yeah, I
tonight.
know, right?
A lot of pressure. Mr. Zink, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Schaefer.
Yes.
Mr. Wynn.
Yes.
Ms. Casper.
Yes. Okay, Board President's comments. I don't really have anything to say today because I know we have a packed meeting with lots of recognition. I will say that both Mr. Argo and Mr. Horton are on vacation, so that is why you just have the three of us. Dr. Whiteley, Superintendent's comments.
Again, probably all my comments will be addressed in the meeting, so it's summer, but it doesn't feel that way in some ways because we're working and making sure we're ready for the 26-27 school year.
All right. Mr. Zink.
We do have a presentation a little bit later where we'll talk about our fiscal year end. This is the big financial meeting of the year. I did have kind of a oddly timed vacation that I came back from that made me feel a little behind the eight ball. So I'm glad that it all pulled together. Thanks to the team for doing a lot of work on that to keep me sane.
All right. And I think this is the part where we have Mrs. Nix come to the microphone. Welcome her, our county auditor, to speak to us a little about reappraisals. I'll give her a minute to get up here.
The stool. Thank you. Thanks for having me tonight to talk about our reappraisal. I'm Nancy Nix. I've been county auditor for 3 years. And before that, I was the county treasurer for about 15 years. So this property tax thing has been in my life a long time, but it's nothing like what it's been for the last 3 years, and I'll get into all that. But I also have Chastity McAnulty. She is our real estate tax calculator, and she has the hardest job, I think, in the whole office, especially now with all this legislation that has been passed. The auditor's office, as you know, has many different roles. We are the assessor and the property tax calculator. We're the CFO for the county and the payroll administrator. We are in charge of weights and measures to make sure your scales are accurate. And we do licensing of dogs and vendors and cigarettes. So we have a lot of different departments, but it's the real estate and assessment and tax calculation that gets the lion's share of attention, not just in the public, but also in our office. It's our biggest division, and it's been very complicated as of late. As you know, property taxes are the #1 issue in the state. People have found their property tax burden unaffordable in many cases, and I know you are all very aware of that. County auditors across the state have been working with state lawmakers for property tax reform for several years. We put forth a list of recommendations that they largely followed. But what came out on the other side after the lawyers got a hold of it was just layers and layers of complexity that we're still working through. This will be a collection by collection by collection implementation of all of these different laws that are affecting school boards across the state and county auditors' offices, treasurers' offices, commissioners' offices. These were major reforms, and I'm not going to go into all the bills because it gets too complicated right away. You can start reading it and your eyes will glaze over. But they did pass 5 pieces of legislation last fall that Governor DeWine signed in December, and we had to start working on that immediately. The 5 pieces of legislation basically cap the property tax increases to the rate of inflation, because we have, with the supply and demand causing our real estate inflation to be astronomical compared to regular inflation, the legislature wanted to make sure that these large increases in property taxes did not happen anymore. So that's the major thrust of the 5 pieces of legislation, is to make sure that we don't get these astronomical increases in the taxes. There's another bill that flips the scripts between the auditor and the DTE. The DTE is God in our world. They give us approval for everything, so the legislature tried to give us more power in the county auditor's offices. But when you're dealing with God, it's very difficult because at the end of the day, you still need their approval. And I think a lot of county auditors' offices are still battling with the DTE about our values. Our Budget Commission also experienced some changes in the legislation. I know some school districts were reaching out about the Budget Commission changes, and what we told them is Butler County is already doing what we can to hold bond rates down with these Budget Commission decisions, and so we were not affected by this. So rest assured, our Budget Commission in Butler County is not changing its practices. Lastly, the House Bill 186, you're going to be learning about or reading about the credits that some taxpayers are going to be getting, and this has been a lot of what Chastity's been working on recently. These House Bill 186 inflation cap credits for any of those school districts that were at the 20 mil floor as of the triennial update or revaluation on January 1st, 2023. So if that's not complicated enough, about half the taxpayers in Butler County will be receiving inflation cap credits, but not Lakota. So this does not affect Lakota because Lakota was not at the 20 mil floor as of January 1st, 2023. But that has been an all-consuming task for our office for many weeks. That's the only reason I mention it. I was invited to speak tonight by Mr. Zink, thank you very much, about our January 1st, 2026 reval. Every 6 years, the county auditor must do a revaluation of every single property in the county. So that means a person is literally looking at that property. In the 3-year interim, we have to do a triennial update where we send all of our sales to the state, and it's algorithms and calculations, and then they formulate where we need to move all of our neighborhoods and our districts. We began this January 1st, 2026 revaluation in October of 2024. So it's been a good year and a half or more that we have been working on this, looking at we have 160,000 parcels that need to be reviewed. Now in the past, we had to do a drive-by, we had to see it with our own eyes, but the legislature has now allowed us to use desktop tools for our appraisal and assessment. That also enables us to have fewer employees and do things more efficiently using the technology. So we thought we would have our approval finished, I don't know, we kept telling Denise at the Journal, late April, early May, we got them Thursday. So we finally got approval from the DTE, we were very excited, and that was what, June 25th, as opposed to end of April, early May. So everything is delayed. Throughout the state, second half bills will be delayed, just so much going on with all of this legislation and property tax reform. As you know, we had historical increases in 2020. Butler County had to move residential real estate market up 20%, according to the DTE. 3 years later, in 2023, we had to move our residential real estate market up by 37%. And this year, drum roll, Adam, we will be going to a 19% increase. So this is the first time we publicly announced it. And that's in residential and agriculture, 19% increase, but for Liberty and Westchester, it's 18. Now personally, I live in Liberty Township, mine's going up 32. So you're gonna have vast differences. There's some districts that might be going up 5%, some well into 30-some%. But overall increase is 19% for residential and ag, and Liberty and Westchester Townships specifically are 18%. Commercial and industrial countywide is moving up 20%. So we're right back. We had 20% in 2020. We spiked up to 37%, and we're now back down to below 20%. So it's some sort of bell curve. I'm not sure if that is meaningful or not. We will find out. But we will be announcing all of these values this week. We're still working with our software technology company to get these inflation cap credits done. At the same time, we're trying to roll out new values. So I don't think the public realizes how dependent every auditor's office is on their software system. And when they're not calculating something correctly, our bills are not correct. And we are so dependent on them getting it correct and getting it timely. And so we are, right now we're waiting on Tyler. That's kind of like our words all the time. We're waiting on Tyler. And it affects, every taxing district that receives money. And our main goal is to be accurate and timely. And sometimes that gets challenging when the legislature puts forth all of this legislation that is extremely complicated, and then our software providers have to push their magic buttons to make it all happen. So as far as the 19% increase countywide in residential real estate and 20% for commercial industrial, we cannot tell Adam, because I know Adam usually likes to make projections on these things, how this will impact Lakota, because we have all of these different laws that are going to be put into place over different periods of time. Like I said, collection by collection by collection, we're going to be trying to implement different laws. So this time it's 186, but next year we have 335 and 129 and yada, 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 472. It just is crazy stuff. So when Adam tells you that the state is doing this or that, he's correct. We totally are on the same page with our grief, I should say. Another thing I wanted to bring up is the homestead exemption credit. That is for those least able to pay. Those are our seniors and our 100% disabled. When the county auditors across the state was working with our state lawmakers and put forth all of our recommendations, which they did put forth most of our recommendations, our number one recommendation was increasing and enhancing the homestead credit. They did not do that with the legislation they passed last year. However, in their budget bill, they did allow local counties or county commissioners to implement a local piggyback option for the homestead exemption. And piggyback's just a catchphrase. But basically, if someone is on homestead, they would get double that amount, and it would be paid for by cuts to all the taxing districts. And those cuts resulted in about 1.1% cut across the board, but it would impact, I think Middletown was very impacted. Lakota was not as much as Middletown. I think Middletown was cut by like $1 million. And Lakota, weren't you like 780 or something, Adam? I can't remember exactly. But our commissioners were one of 780. Our Butler County commissioners were one of 9 counties that did vote to do this homestead local option. And that language interfered or conflicted with other language in the code. So for our administration and the county auditor's office, again, nightmare. So we were delayed with our settlement by several months. What usually is settled in April was just settled in mid-June. And we still have ongoing issues that the prosecutor's going to have to tell us how to handle with bond rates, and I don't know. When you send laws to be made by lawyers in Columbus, they don't always check with other laws, and so we go head on with laws that conflict with each other, and then you have to get an opinion, and that takes time. But the state has decided, I think a couple weeks ago, that they are going to spend $350 million to enhance the homestead for payable in 2027 by $350 million, which will pay for our piggyback local option. And because of all the administrative issues that we've had, and because the state is paying for it, and because the commissioners didn't want to cut taxing districts again 2 years in a row, we will not be doing the local option. But like I said, the seniors are not getting cut. They're losing nothing. The state is paying for it, and our local districts won't have to take the cuts, because I think local districts are going to have a lot of uncertainty with all the laws that were already passed, as you well know. So we're glad that the state is stepping up with $350 million to help those least able to pay. However, we really need them to make some permanent changes in this manner, because I can tell you the fervor when you take a credit away from somebody that's had it for a year or two now, not going to be pretty. And so we'll be saying, talk to your state lawmakers. So that's basically my presentation. I know you have a long evening, but I'll be glad to answer any question. If it gets too technical, I got my technician, Chastity, right
You
here.
brought backup.
Oh, yes. Yeah, the things the calculations, I'm a CPA, but this stuff is just, it's insane. It's really insane.
Do either of you have a question for Ms. Nix? Ben?
I don't have a question, but thank you for taking time out of your day to make a presentation. I know the reappraisal is going to be important for our goals in November, but I think it'd be important to reiterate, the auditor's office, or at least the county auditor's office, is required by law to do the reappraisals. Every 6 years?
Right.
Every 3 years or so. And that's ORC. That's not anything that Lakota would have any governance over. So when, I think I can speak about the context over our heads for the next couple months is obviously a levy that's going to not be an increase. But I would like to reiterate that when your reappraisals have a 18% increase, that's not anything Lakota has any say-so over. So hate the game, don't hate the player.
Well, we always try to separate values from taxes.
Right,
And yes, you're right. Everything we do in the auditor's office is according to state law. And sometimes these laws are just crazy abominations. But we are directed by the state on how to administer. We have very little leeway or discretion in anything we do. So thank you for making that point, that we're not trying to raise all these values. In fact, we work with the DTE to try to keep the values as low as possible. In fact, we are sticking at 90% of full market value.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ben.
And again, you mentioned that you try to separate the values from the taxes, and I do think that particularly schools like Lakota that are not on the 20 mil floor, people assume that if they get an 18% reappraisal, that their taxes are going to go up 18%, and just to reaffirm that will not be the case.
That's correct.
We will not be getting any windfalls. We will not be seeing huge increases
Correct.
from any of these reappraisals because of the impact of House Bill 920.
Yes.
And so again, that's the drum that I always try to beat, because I think that there is a lot of confusion and people don't go back and double check the bill to notice, oh wait, it didn't go up 42% like
You're
I was
right.
thinking it was going to. It went up or down perhaps, depending upon where they are relatively to others. I just wanted to ask, as you go through that process of the reappraisal and looking at the homes and such, do you do any checks on how that compares to what the sales have been, and updating any of those property valuations to the sale price if there's been a sale during that reappraisal period?
Yes, everything we do is according to surrounding sales. So we have 3 licensed appraisers and another one getting his license. And that's really all they do every day, is look at sales in the neighborhood. And in fact, once we release all the values, which I hope is this week, we're waiting on Tyler, once we get, hopefully this week, you can go and look at your own property. We also have a tool where you can know we haven't used it in 3 years, know your neighborhood, where you can look at your property. It's a separate website that you are going to, and you can see all of the sales around you in the last 3 years, and they're in green. And we are basing pretty much everything, and we use cost approach for certain types of properties, but mainly we are going with what the open market sales are. So every sale is being sent to the state for analysis, and that's where we get into disputes with the tax commissioner, DTE, is because they will use sales that we wouldn't advise them to use, or vice versa. We feel like we know sales better in Butler County than the DTE, and the DTE is always in dispute with different counties. We try to be good children and get our values approved, because you honk them off too much and they will take away your funding. And also we had the lawsuit that the former auditor had gone after them several years ago, and we had to tax our property owners retroactively for 2 years because of that decision. So there's so much back and forth with the DTE, but it's all sales related, and everything is based on the Ohio Constitution, where it has to be open market based on sales.
So does that mean then, does that translate to if a house 2 doors down from me sold for $400,000, it should have a reappraised value?
It will impact your property, yes.
But will that particular house be $400,000?
Oh, we do not chase individual sales. We do, that is frowned upon. I think some counties do chase sales. It has never been the practice of Butler County to chase sales. We look at the county as a whole, but it will impact anyone in the neighborhood. I think that's why mine went up 32%, because I know there were a lot of sales on the street over. So yeah, it's going to happen.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Whiteley, Mr. Zink, do you have any questions?
The only thing that I was going to add is, as Auditor Nick said, I plugged in the numbers really quickly, and at 18%, it looks like we still won't hit the floor. We will still be above the 20 mil floor, so that means we'll have the full rollback there. And then with House Bill 305, with the inflationary credit or inflationary cap on the inside millage, which we have 6.49. Always before they had this legislation in, we could have got the whole 18%. So on 100,000, that would be roughly $100,000 appraised value, would not tax assessed, but appraised value would equate the same way. It would be about $41-ish. Now, because of the legislation, that would take that down to about $20.50. So it would take that down by about half. It just worked out kind of easy math at 18%.
Mm-hmm.
And the inflation for 3 years is somewhere around 9.3%.
Okay.
Is what we're projecting on. But yeah, it looks like we will stay just a little above the floor. I thought we needed to be around 20 to hit the floor. So everybody will see the full impact of the rollback. So again, another reappraisal cycle that Lakota will go through where the residents won't feel that big hit, even if the legislation wouldn't have happened.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And just to clarify, that's only on the inside millage. On anything above that 6.49 mils.
We'll all roll back.
It will all roll back.
That's
So
correct.
in aggregate, that means that their taxes will go up about 2-ish%? If you look at what that would be, if we were.
I didn't
It
go
would be
that
a
far
little
into
bit
the
more.
math.
Yeah,
I just based it on 100,000 really fast while Auditor Nix was talking.
Those are chastity questions.
Yeah, let's call Chastity up. But yeah, that's good news. It's, it is what it is. It's part of the every 3-year cycle, and we appreciate you coming in and sharing the information with us.
Sure. Yeah, anytime. Adam, I'm going to miss you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll miss you too, Nancy.
You've been a joy to work with. I can't even believe you're moving out of Butler County. I just can't even believe it.
Moved out of the county. Thank you.
All right,
Auditor Nix,
thank you
for
so
coming. We
much.
appreciate you, and bring your team. Thank you so much. All right, next on our agenda, we have a special presentation by the auditor of the state representative.
I didn't put his name on there.
I know, I would have introduced your name, but Adam neglected to put your name on the agenda, so I apologize.
It's great to be here. My name is Joe Braden. I'm a Director of Regional Liaisons for Ohio Auditor State Keith Faber. And it's my honor to be here tonight to present the Lakota Local School District with the Ohio Auditor State Award with distinction. Receiving this award puts Lakota Local School District in a very select group. The Auditor State's Office audits approximately 4,200 entities annually. Of the 6,000 total entities we audit, and less than 4% of those entities are even eligible for this award. The Auditor State Award with distinction is presented to local governments upon the completion of a financial audit that meet the following criteria of a clean audit report. I'm going to read through the criteria here real quick of what it takes to get this award, just so your constituents will know what it took for Adam and his staff and the whole board to make it happen. So, the entity must first file the financial report with the Auditor State's Office by the statutory due date without extension on a GAAP accounting basis and prepare an annual comprehensive financial report. The audit report must not contain any findings for recovery or any material citations, no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies, any uniform guidance findings, or any question costs. And the entity's management letter must not contain any comments related to any ethics referrals, any question costs less than the threshold per uniform guidance, any lack of timely annual financial report submissions, any bank reconciliation issues, failure to obtain a timely single audit in accordance with uniform guidance, any findings for recovery, or any public meetings or public records issues. And finally, the entity shall have no other financial concerns or any other type concerns. This award represents the hard work of all your school employees here and the financial staff who make an effort each day to attain accounting excellence. I want to recognize all the board members here and the superintendent that have all done an outstanding job watching over every dollar here at Lakota Local School District. But specifically, Adam, if you'd like to step up here, I would specifically like to recognize your treasurer, Adam Zink, for his exceptional commitment to fiscal integrity. On behalf of Ohio Auditor State Keith Faber, I would like to present the Lakota Local School District the Ohio Auditor State Award with distinction.
All right, thank you. Thanks for coming in and doing that. And also, you said it very well. I want to thank all of the staff of Lakota. It takes a real team effort, not just with the staff in the finance department, also with the staff that we have in the buildings. We have staff throughout the buildings that know the processes, enter the receipts, enter requisitions, and it takes a whole team effort to go through the workflows and do that with integrity. So this isn't just a shout out to us, but also a shout out to all of the staff of Lakota that help us every day in the processes. Now, if you want, we will call the staff. We have staff members here tonight. Don't be shy.
I was going to say, don't be shy.
Now, as you come up and come over to this way, and we'll all get a picture.
Yep.
Come over this way, and I'm going to say everybody's names as they come across, and I'm not going to mess up any, so don't group up too much. Darian Oskley, Assistant Treasurer. Jenny Shepard, Fiscal Office Specialist. She does accounts payable. Brianne Miller, Fiscal Office Specialist, Payroll. Beth Mashad, Fiscal Office Specialist, particularly accounts receivable. Lisa Sennett, sorry about that, Lisa. Lisa is our Payroll Director. Hannah Davis, she is our Finance Director. And Jen David is our Fiscal Office Specialist in benefits. We didn't have anybody tonight able to join us from the Welcome Center. I kind of got everybody a little bit of a late notice on that. Do we have... Oh, we thought maybe we would have another special guest, but we don't right now, so maybe if they show up later, we'll announce that later on in the meeting. So, perfect. If everybody wants to come up, we'll do a picture, and that'll be great.
Right there. Thank you. Appreciate you coming and celebrating with us.
Okay, I wondered what this thing was. I was
Thank you. Yep.
tripping on it.
Unless you like a good board meeting.
Yeah, you've done your time?
Time served.
All right, well, congratulations, Adam,
Thank you.
and that to your team. Student achievement, Dr. Whiteley.
So as I mentioned, I think sometimes in the summer, people think educational systems shut down, right? And actually, they ramp up, not only for staff, but also our students. So this year, in summer school, we have 215 students participating in summer school, which is 260 credits that are going to be processed. And summer school really is two kind of big buckets. One might be for like credit recovery. So students who need, maybe were unsuccessful in a class, just need some more time, maybe a different approach, a little differentiation. But there's also 153 original credits being offered. And we often see those original credits kind of freshman year on. And what happens in original credits are students are trying to make room in their schedules. We have so many wonderful electives, particularly at the secondary level, that they're trying to free up some spots. Whether that be health, whether that be PE, sometimes that's an English class or a social studies class. So 260 credits processed in the summer, meaning really June and July, and that's a pretty impressive feat for students to be able to kind of get ahead of the curve. Also, we have bridge testing. If you remember, Summer Bridge is an assessment that students can sign up for, and they are able to jump into the advanced math track, right, in our junior highs. And so maybe students who weren't initially placed in that track by our matrix and our data, they take the opportunity to kind of stretch themselves because they want to be in that kind of upper, next, more rigorous level. And we normally see about 50% of students who test who are successful in that. So we had 37 students test this year for the bridge, the Summer Bridge assessment, and it's just really wonderful when you see students who really want to push themselves, who want to be challenged. And I want to commend our curriculum department. If you want to see Mr. Wheatley jazzed, you get him talking about this, about how we're making sure that kids are not only in the right level, but the rigorous level that is pushing them. And that's where you not only see achievement, but growth. So just a big shout out to our curriculum department who, not only, again, during the summer opportunity, but really that is a philosophy of our entire curriculum department and a belief. We also have our summer title reading program. We have 36 second graders participating in that. So we contract with the local company here called Book Bums, who provides evidence-based reading intervention to targeted students in Title I eligible buildings. And so normally students get there, they're identified for those seats through our MTSS process. So that's our response to intervention, or multi-tiered systems of support is the new name that we call that now. And so normally we see great gains in this. So students do a lot of literacy work over the summer, a lot of titled reading intervention supports, and then they're able to start the school year in a stronger place than when they ended, which is really what we want. Because over the summer, as we know, students can kind of see some regression, right? And so we want to make sure that those skills are being polished and up to date and honed throughout the summer. And then in addition to our students, and I'm going to keep this one light because this list is long, our staff are involved all summer long in PD opportunities. Our principals are participating each week in Partners in Practice, so they're focused on early literacy in K-6, and 7-12 are focused on goal setting and progress monitoring. Wednesday workouts, this is weekly sessions for new staff who can attend and really collaborate with others, kind of get that. I mean, they have trepidation about the new school year too, because they're new, just like our new students are. And so we average about 10 to 20 new staff members a week, and that kind of grows as hiring season continues. We have 2 book studies going on right now. One is Building Thinking Classrooms, and one is Differentiating Phonics Instruction. We have multiple conferences going on, everything from literacy to the Institute for Middle School Education. I mean, you name it, our staff are involved. And I say that because they're just super excited about their students. They're already looking at their rosters for next year and trying to gear up for that. And so we just try to make sure that learning is happening throughout the year, but for the summer for both our students and our staff.
Wow. Not really a big break in the summer. They keep busy. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Dr. Whiteley? I will say I pity the children who are taking summer gym this week.
It's a little warm,
I would also like to add, I appreciate that we used to hear that it was hard for people if they weren't on some of those advanced tracks that we didn't have on roads. So I appreciate the responsiveness of the curriculum team to make sure that there are opportunities for kids to get on those different tracks and make sure that if they are inclined to, that they have the opportunity to. So thank you for that. And then also, I love that our teachers are investing in their students all year, and then we get to invest in them. And I know that the PD, the professional development here, is very broad because we have so many opportunities. So thank you to everyone who creates those.
We will move to board reports. Mr. Nguyen, do you have a Butler Tech report for us?
Yes, I do. Sorry, I've been checking my phone. Dr. Sprinkles keeps texting me with a new accomplishment of some of our students. So, that's always good. This is a little bit more lengthy. I guess I'll just kind of start with the lighter stuff. So Butler Tech this week was featured in a Wall Street Journal editorial about basically, so the Aviation Center in Middletown was featured in that, and the Wall Street Journal was just kind of praising the way that Butler Tech is approaching filling the gaps in the airline industry with not just people, but capable kids who go, students who go well beyond their peers in the job market, and they're going to do well. So that's a praise for them. Butler Tech students were selected recently to open the ACTE conference there in New Orleans this year, which will be really exciting. I will be there in New Orleans with some of our colleagues there in Butler Tech, so really looking forward to that. That's exciting for our students. I believe they're students from our School of the Arts, which when we had that all boards conference, we got to see some of the amazing performances by some of our students there in Butler Tech in the School of the Arts. An event coming up August 8th, there is a golf outing at Potter's in Hamilton. It's basically, we have a lot of kids in our district, but everywhere in Butler County that they get their driver's licenses and they take the test and everything like that through Butler Tech. But that's an expensive process. I didn't realize that my parents were helpful there, but it's actually an expensive process. I think it's $700. And this golf outing is just to kind of fill that gap and provide students with, some of that help. Again, like some of these kids are going to need licenses to go to work, whatever it is that they need to do to succeed. And we don't want money to be the reason that they can't be able to do that. So this golf outing is just to kind of support them. Dr. Sprankle says that we should really, it would be awesome if Lakota can contribute a team. I don't know if you want me on that team, but a team, anyone in Lakota can participate in that, and that would be awesome. Another one, we have 15 students from Lakota East High School interning for the FC Cincinnati this summer for the soccer club. We have national champions for the, sorry, I'm looking at my email here because I wasn't going to remember it. For the Technology Student Association, and I'll start with that one. So we had 37 students go to Washington, D.C. To compete, in our national TSA competition. And we had national champions from Lakota West High School, and I just want to say their names to kind of recognize them publicly. It's a list, but hey, they have a hard, they're brilliant kids, brilliant students. Sorry, people still call me a kid. Brilliant students, and they're going to do really well in life. So our national champions for systems control from Lakota West was Griffin Kuhn, Alex Harry, and Tyler Fisher. Technology and problem solving national champions from Lakota East were William Kime and Alex Feldmeyer. We had students from Lakota East, actually, okay, this is 37 students. We had a lot of students from Lakota East and Lakota West go and compete. I can forward you this email, we can celebrate them, but just really, really kudos to them for shining, not just for Butler Tech on the national scale, but for our district to be able to champion Lakota as well. HOSA also had their international leadership conference, which took place just a couple weeks ago, and we had 29 students representing Butler Tech, and among them was a great deal of Lakota East and Lakota West students as well. So once again, kudos to our students for representing us. And this one, by the way, it's not just national, international. So it's not just championing Butler Tech on that scale, it's also Lakota on that scale. So I know we're really happy about that. The big part that came out of last week's board meeting for Butler Tech, which I'll just speak briefly to, is we had a memorandum of understanding for transportation. A lot of school districts, are struggling. Our neighbor school districts are struggling. They can't keep up, and transportation was a really costly burden to some of them. Or I won't say burden, but it was a costly undertaking for a lot of them. And so Butler Tech said, hey, we're going to fill this gap for 1 year with our partner school districts, and we're going to pay the transportation costs for everybody for this 1 year so that we can figure things out. Now, I was pleased that Lakota is contributing our fair share with transportation, but nonetheless, I know other school districts and a couple of our fellow board colleagues were very, very thankful for this. And I'll just read briefly from Section 3, which I thought was the important part. Butler Tech will provide a one-time reimbursement pool of $75,000 for the 26-27 school year to be shared among the participating member school districts. This financial support by Butler Tech is intended to help offset the operational costs, such as driver time, fuel, and vehicle wear and tear, incurred by member districts for operating shuttle runs between Butler Tech campuses. So that's my Butler Tech update, a little bit meatier than the rest of them have been, but if you have any questions, I'll be happy to forward any emails or respond.
Do you have any questions for Mr. Nguyen?
Thank you.
I have a quick question. Do you know if the students that are opening the conference are our students?
I believe so. Not all ours, but again,
there are some of ours.
There's a great deal. I mean, Lakota contributes a lot to Butler
Yeah.
Tech, and I would be willing to say about 30% of that.
Right. Well,
team.
thank you for that very thorough report, Mr. Nguyen. Policy Committee, we have some first reads of policy to.
And normally that's Mr. Marshall, not myself, but this is pretty brief. We only have 3, so I'm just going to do those this evening. The first one is Policy 1520. That's employment of administrators. We are really just removing a paragraph that has specificity around work calendars. We're going to put that language in the AGs rather than the policy, which would allow some flexibility going forward as work calendar changes are made. So again, we're just going to take a paragraph and literally put it really into the AG piece with some changes as work calendars come. So that's the only difference there. Then we have Policy 7540.09, which is artificial intelligence. Really, with this one, there was a series of options that we could take. So what you're seeing, you won't see a lot of red line or anything like that. It is because we took the policy as is, really the template with the options that we selected or declined. But really, it's exactly what you think it's for, right? It's about the ethical use of artificial intelligence and making sure that as school districts, we are as proactive as we can be in an ever-evolving, ever-changing system. So you'll see things simply like defining what AI is, everything about AI literacy, but then you get into kind of like acceptable use that you would see like in normal technology agreements. Then there's things about employment training and academic integrity. As you can imagine in teacher worlds, that's a big one with academic integrity and how keen things are in writing and making essays. But then also there are some pieces even about intimate imagery that I know that we've heard a lot about in the news, like in some surrounding districts, and making sure to be proactive. And we will actually probably build out some AGs a little bit more because we want to make sure that that we are very safe and responsible and making sure that we have restrictive natures in that to make sure that if issues arise, we have some recourse. So again, really it's the template, making sure again that we'll couple those AGs to give it a little bit more specificity where it's needed around some things, but it's really just making sure that our students and our staff and our community knows that AI is ever evolving and we're just trying to stay ahead of that in the policy world. And then last but not least, probably the biggest shift in some ways is around Policy 5200, that's in attendance. If you remember several years ago, maybe, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago, House Bill 410, there was a big shift in attendance changes. Well, this is the new version of that. House Bill 96 has created some policy changes around attendance, and really House Bill 96 will replace what we knew as House Bill 410. And really the root cause was making sure that policies were really considering things like health and transportation, mental health, family issues, and how that was impacting attendance. And so in House Bill 410, if you remember, it was pretty prescriptive about how quickly you got to truancy, things like habitual truancy or chronic absences. And those definitions still exist, but I would say this puts more back on local control and empowering districts to create the steps that you feel that you need before you get to court action. Again, House Bill 410 was pretty prescriptive. I mean, you got there pretty quickly. This says that you can intervene and maybe provide some more supportive measures and well-rounded supports for family before taking them to truancy. There are some things that we certainly won't lose. We still believe in, attendance intervention plans. We still believe in family meetings and family communication. It says that we'll have more flexibility and leeway with that. So really think not a total abandonment of 410, but more local control and how a district executes before they get to truancy court with a family.
And I think that there were issues that, I think have even been brought to the board that talked about, we had children with chronic illnesses who sometimes it would seem very, cruel almost, the letters we had to send, but it was what it was prescribed by law of what we had to do, and it was very insensitive to the families and not recognizing what everyone was doing their best. It was dealing with the condition.
I also think, I think House Bill 410 had some unintended consequences on truancy court itself.
Right.
I don't think that they could handle the pure quantity of cases that they were seeing, and it was because it was such a regimented process where oftentimes, having been on the receiving end of having to testify in those, like you could say, I just needed more time to work with this family. They are making progress, they are making progressions, but based on the prescriptiveness that we have to follow, we have to bring them to court. And so sometimes it didn't feel very productive because you were making traction, and except that you met the threshold and you had to go to court. And so I think we will see some more growth rather than just pure achievement, kind of like we talk about with report cards. I do think we'll see some more growth around students and being able to intervene appropriately with families and students. And I say families too. Attendance is a family issue oftentimes. It's not just a student issue. There are a lot of complexities around, jobs and transportation and family situations that can become very clunky, and we have to work through those with the family to help best serve those kiddos.
And with that AI policy, that was also reviewed with our tech team prior to being
Yes.
brought to Alex and I in the policy committee.
Tech team, communication team, because we have to look at the ADA accommodations and acceptable use. We will also go back and make sure we'll review that with our principals and our parents and our community to let them know, because it is an ever-changing world in that AI piece.
Any questions? Okay, Finance Committee.
We just met.
You did. Go ahead. One of you?
Go ahead. You guys want to go ahead? We did have a sub tonight. It was very exciting.
How's the sub?
We reviewed some changes in the 5-year forecast. We talked about appropriations and doing advances and transfers.
All of which Adam will talk about again later, right?
Yeah, we have a little presentation coming up as we close out fiscal year 26 and get ready to open up fiscal year 27. Our fiscal year's end on June 30th. So tomorrow is for the finance world, tomorrow's our New Year's Eve. It's very exciting.
A big celebration, party hats, blowers.
Yeah, we're going to try to get some fireworks in.
Okay, any board professional development? And as always, committee dates and community dates are posted on the agenda on board docs. This is the part where we would have public participation, but we do not have anyone signed up this evening for public participation. So we will move on to administrative report.
So I'm going to give you an overview of strategic planning. I know that we've talked a great deal about this. And if you remember, actually my first year, we were slated to do strategic planning in the spring. And master facilities, rightfully so, kind of became the focus of the conversation. So we decided to delay strategic planning. But we are now come to the point that strategic planning, at least the first piece of that, has been launched. And I'm just going to kind of walk everybody through that. So what is a strategic plan? A strategic plan, think of it as a compass, think of it as the North Star, think of it as the roadmap. It's really a roadmap for the future. And so you're really looking at about a 3 to 5 year iteration of what we aspire to be, right? Where we aspire to go. And really it identifies our highest priorities. You might hear me call it our highest pillars of where we focus our work. And then each of those will have very definitive goals and action steps that we can be measurable and accountable for our community. So we are we have not yet created that strategic plan, but we are in the process of really building and crafting a new strategic plan that ultimately will be brought back to the Board of Education for approval and adoption. And the reason it needs to be approved by the governance team is because it is your North Star, right? It really, when you're anchored in a strategic plan, it is very easy to say, this is our priority work, this is where our focus should be, this is where our dollars should be spent, this is where our staffing should go. So really, it kind of makes, I don't want to say your job easier, but it gives you more direction and clarity on what you're prioritizing and where you put the work. So the purpose of that is really multiple pieces. One, it's to clarify the vision for the future. It's to gather feedback from the stakeholders to create that, and it's to identify those priorities and opportunities and establish those measurable goals and timelines so that, again, we can bring back ultimately a board-approved document for our community and for our staff and our students. And so how that starts is stakeholder engagement. And we have done a lot of stakeholder engagement in the last 2 years. And I just want to bring that to the forefront because we had 100 plus superintendent listening sessions being new, right, that we did in the fall of not this year, but the past year. We've had 20 plus stakeholder master facilities feedback sessions. And I say that because even though you're talking about master facilities, you're talking about the vision and where we might see a gap and where we want those buildings to accomplish in the future. So that's why it is tied to that strategic planning work. We've had communication surveys, seeing where there are gaps and strengths in that. We've had community surveys that are statistically relevant, which are always great. We've had 2 of those in the past 2 years. We have had 2 workplace culture surveys, hearing from our staff about what they value and what they think are strengths and growth areas. And we also have a student course feedback survey. That might be my favorite. It's from our secondary students on what they want to see in the future and where they think the gaps are, because that is a voice that certainly needs to be tapped and listened to. And so I say all of that because we will not be having focus groups throughout our strategic planning because we've already done that. We have amassed a wealth of data from all of those sources. We currently have a strategic planning survey open to our community. And it is open. It's had about 270 plus responses at this point. And I'll give a little overview of the data we've seen thus far in just a little bit. But so you take all of that wealth of data that we've collected over the 2 years, you take the community survey, which is open to the masses at this point, and we will couple that together and really look at the major themes of that. We will then bring those themes to the Strategic Planning Steering Committee. It is a committee of about 50 people. And I know that sounds large, but we are a large district, right? So normally they might say you hone that down to 20, but when you have 17,000 children and 2,000 employees, we want to make sure that we are really representing a good, healthy cross-section of our district. So lots of survey opportunities that we've had, coupled with the current survey that is open through July 3rd. I'll say that date a couple of times tonight. And then we'll have that committee that comes together really of practitioners, right? Everything from board members to staff to administration. Some of those serve dual roles like parents and staff members, but really looking at and taking that data and saying, what are those educational trends? What does educational research coupled with our community voices show that we want our next vision to be? And then at the bottom, I know it's on the screen, but also at the bottom, you'll see a timeline there, right? The good thing is when you don't have to do that kind of arsenal of focus groups, because we've already done them, you can kind of have a quicker trajectory maybe than what people might anticipate. So the survey is open now. It is open through July 3rd. Please, please, please take that. Students can take it, staff can take it, parents can take it, community members, business owners. Anybody can take that, and it asks for your viewpoint and your vantage point, and you just give a variety of feedback. That survey will close on the 3rd, and then on July 16th, we will have our steering committee work session where we will have already waded through all of that survey data and all of the kind of pre-focus group work that we did. And then we will build that plan together. It'll go through several iterations, I am sure, getting feedback and gleaning and honing that. And ultimately, it will be brought back to you hopefully end of August with a little convocation preview for our staff. But hopefully you will see that by the end of August, latest probably September, for a board approval. And we will have a new strategic plan. Again, from my role, very selfishly, when you have a very clear strategic plan, you follow it, right? Because that is the priorities of our community and our board and our students and our staff. And so it makes our decision-making process a lot quicker and a lot more efficient because we're grounded in that North Star or that roadmap. Going back to that data that I mentioned, the survey is not closed. I just want to keep reiterating that. You can still take that survey through July 3rd. We have had, I'm pulling it up just to make sure, we've had 218 responses. We had 441 people start the survey, but only 218, so about 49% have finished it. But don't worry, even if they got like a quarter of the way through, we still saved their data. And I'm going to hit the highlights, right? It's still ongoing, so there's lots of data still to be collected. But I will think one of the themes in this particular survey, and it's always good when data triangulates, is class size. People want to see class size brought down, right? And I say that because that's good that we're hearing that community message. That's a very clear process for us for what to do when we talk about master's facilities, when we talk about alternative school of choice, when we talk about transportation, those kind of things. The other thing is that people certainly value what we're doing about being workforce ready and future ready, but they think that that's still a growth area for us. And I think we know that, right? When we look at our CCWMR report card data, we show that there's still ways to go. We have that new position that Mr. Wheatley has been, that is going to shift to, that really focuses on this exact type of work, making sure that our students not only have academic rigor, but they have relevant workplace and career college entrepreneurial readiness. The other thing that you see currently in the district is that curriculum pace and interventions, you see specials come up, right? That our community, not only with class size, but they want to see those specials, and they also talk about different electives, which I think ties into those internships and opportunities. And then the other is that, and I think we always know this, that we can always continue to be more transparent, build trust in our community with our communication paths. I kind of smiled because our parent feedback is showing a little bit that we maybe over-communicate, which is a good thing, but I think also making sure that there's a dialogue there, right, that it's not a one-sided communication. And then our fiscal responsibility and financial stability, I think, always continues to be important to any district, but particularly ours. And so those are just some early themes, very high level. Like I said, we will get into the weeds of that data once that survey closes. But the good thing is when you see triangulation of data, at least it helps you know that you're on the right path. And so I think we've seen that in our statistically relevant data, our master facilities data, and then this data, which ties specifically to strategic planning. Any questions for me in that overview?
Have you already informed everyone who's participating in that 50-person steering group?
We have, but I will say we've got some backups because it's summer, right? And we know people are on vacation, and that's okay. We've got to enjoy that time as well. So there's about 50 invites out. We do have, again, some backups. I would say I've heard from maybe a third of those. I sent that email out this morning. And there's also kind of a pre-webinar that we will do just to make sure to setting the stage, but that will be recorded in case people have to be out for that.
Great. Mr. Nguyen?
Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate that update. Mr. Zink,
Back to me again, huh?
it's you again.
All right.
We'll make you earn that award.
Very excited.
You're going to work for that award.
Perfect. So we're getting ready to talk through fiscal year end. We've wrapped up fiscal year 26, and everything is ready to go. So the wheels are down, and we're getting ready to hit the runway, I suppose. All right. So for our general fund, we ended this year with total revenues of $223 million. which ended up being 1.1% higher than projected. Our projections this year, due to the changes in the 5-year forecast, were due by February, which normally this was May. So we had a little different cadence on that. The big reason why we had the variance there was due to, at the time in February when we put the forecast together, we were anticipating Fed drops on the interest rates that once the conflict happened in the Middle East, those changes did not happen. So we ended up coming in with our interest. This is one of the good reasons to have some reserves, is we ended up coming in with our interest a little over $1 million more than what we had anticipated. Then we also had payment in lieu of tax payments that ended up coming in a little bit higher. Those are a combination of new parcels coming online for tax within those districts, as well as we do get windfalls from Liberty Township. We have very favorable TIF agreements with Liberty Township so that they just meet the obligations of their debt, and then the proceeds come back to us. Now, on the total expenditures, we ended up at $235.3 million, or 0.9% less than projected, which again is a good thing. It's good to come in less on the expense and more on the revenue. Although we did talk in Finance Committee, I prefer when I'm right on the dot, so I was a little disappointed in that. But that is good news. So we ended up total overall for the year, $4.8 million better than what we had anticipated, or a cash balance of, in our general fund cash balance, $51.6 million to end this fiscal year and to start fiscal 27. So this is a snapshot. I know this is a little bit hard to see, but this is a snapshot of all of the funds that we have. So realistically, of the $314.7 million overall budget that we had in fiscal 26, 5 funds make up 94% of that. So what fund accounting, the school district, we do fund accounting as other government agencies do, which basically identifies what each fund can be used for. General fund is what we forecast on, that is all of those revenues, and is viewed as the most flexible of all of our revenues because it can essentially go to pay for a lot more things where the other funds are very, very specific. For example, when we talk about our bonds, that will be in the 002 debt service fund. The dollars collected for that can only go to make the obligations of the debt payments. The permanent improvement fund, only for items that are going to last around the 5-year mark for the district, and also we have tax proceeds there as well. That general fund, permanent improvement, and the debt service is the 3 places where we do receive property tax revenues. Then we also have like our food service. That's our 006 fund. That is all of our district-wide cafeterias and what we feed the students with. So then the next biggest fund is going to be the 024. That is our self-insured for our health, dental, and vision benefits. So as you can see, overall, the general fund makes up just under 75% of that in fiscal year 26. We also have, we reviewed the 5-year forecast, an update to that we believe will have possibly some immaterial changes, nothing dramatic, as we maybe line things up into what line they may hit, depending on how the programming shakes out as we get ready for the fiscal year 27 or the 2026-2027 school year. So we might have a few minor adjustments to that, but for the most part, this will be pretty laid out as we get ready for the new August submission of the 5-year forecast. So moving forward, unless Columbus makes additional changes, 5-year forecasts will be before the end of August and before the end of February moving forward. Okay, so fiscal year end, what we have as we end the fiscal year is we finalize our appropriations or our budget. From there, we will we'll do an amended certificate of estimated resources, and that will all be sent up to the county auditor's office, as well as we will have our temporary appropriations in place for fiscal 27. This is very, very critically important because if we do not have appropriations or a budget in place, then the treasurer cannot legally issue any checks. So with our first payroll being on July 5th, if we had any discrepancies or reasons why we wouldn't want to put a budget in place, that could result in some pretty hostile staff if they don't receive a paycheck. But we'll work through all of that. We also have fund-to-fund transfers or advances. All fund-to-fund have to be board approved. Now, by law, we are allowed to do inter-fund transfers. We can move money within the same fund because of the purpose, doesn't change. But when you're taking it from one fund to the other, that always requires an approval by the governing body. So we'll have that as well. And then we've had the standing item for the last several years now, which is board taking an action to continue with our quarterly updates on the Ohio checkbook. We've not really had any positive or negative feedback on that for the most part. It hasn't caused any headaches on our end. We just want to make sure that we're doing that quarterly so that if the community does want to go out there and look at that, then they know where they can depend on a consistent timing for when we'll have the updates. And then again, we file all that with the county auditor, and then we will send all of our fiscal year 26 when we hit the button to close down fiscal year 26, that then opens up fiscal year 27. We'll also run a report and we'll send all of our cash documentation over to the Auditor of State's office for their review as well. Okay. Let me get my papers back in order here. So, exciting things that we ran into in fiscal year 26. We had several different property tax changes. So only one of these is impacting Lakota at this time. That is House Bill 335. House Bill 335 is the one that we mentioned that is putting a cap on the amount of growth on the inside millage. House Bill 129, that's a change to how they calculate the 20 mil floor. We do not have emergency levies or fixed sum levies. Therefore, that does not apply to Lakota. We were not on the 20 mil floor previously, so House Bill 186 does not apply to Lakota. That's where those credits are going, the clawback credits, as Auditor Nix mentioned, is going to come back to residents that are in districts that do receive, or that was on the 20 mil floor at that time. And then House Bill 309, that was where they expanded the Budget Commission's roles, and as Auditor Nix mentioned, they have no intent of changing the way they do business, so that shouldn't result in material changes for us either. We did end with 79 days of cash. We have talked about this within the policy. The policy references a 90-day cash balance. However, we've adjusted the way we do things we've strategically set up reserves that has taken a lot of the pressure off of what that 90-day cash versus a 79 means. It allows us to be a little bit more lean and not carry too much more than what we may need for our community. And then finally, as mentioned, we have the reserve accounts. These aren't super easy to see. Hopefully they're a little easier out there. But the reserve accounts total up $31.6 million. Again, we are going to look for purchasing of the bus fleet. Doing that, we have $17.5 million. That's part of that, how to stabilize some of our general funded expenditures. So that'll be important on the move forward, as well as curriculum, 9.4. All of these reserve accounts are viewed as if they were to phase out over a 10-year period, just so that we're not just capturing more reserves than we may need. But curriculum, transportation, we also have severance. Severance is part of our bargaining agreements. We try to maintain a 3-year reserve on that one because that's how long our bargaining agreements typically are. The one that we are working on right now, we have one with the teachers union working on one. Classified staff, those are 2-year, but we want to make sure that we have the funds set aside to meet the obligations of those payments. And then the copiers, this is, as mentioned in finance, this is a placeholder so we don't forget about it. By purchasing the copiers versus the lease has allowed us to save money district-wide. So that's why we want to continue doing that.
Questions for Mr. Zink and that lovely presentation?
How about that?
Well, 2 of the 3 of us heard it in finance, and so.
Mr. Wynn, do you have any
Mr.
questions?
Wynn,
I'm
he's good.
Yeah, I'm good. I appreciate it. I appreciate it, Adam.
Yeah. So we had, is Jocelyn Dunn?
Is she here?
Duff, sorry, Duff. I say that all the time. Jocelyn, are you here? Come on up. We have a special guest tonight. She was at work, so she wasn't able to make it when the auditors was here. Miss Duff did an excellent job through my time at Lakota on doing interviews and making me sound like I was kind of smart. So I appreciated everything that Jocelyn had done, and because of this, I had done mentoring for another treasurer in the state, and because I did the mentoring and spent my time on it, they gave me a $500 scholarship to provide to a student that we thought would be good for that.
Yay.
Thank you. Put you right on the spot.
I always loved interviewing Mr. Zink. I would ask him a lot of tough questions about stories about house bills and things like that, and he was always very polite and answered all of my questions. And so I want to say thank you to him, and I'm very honored to accept this scholarship. Thank you.
Becky, can we get a picture? Yeah. We could surprise her. I'm like, this cord under my seat keeps rolling my chair over it. All right, we are now, I think we're at board action items. And can we take these all together?
Yes, please.
It's only two. So do I have a motion for board action items? A, to approve contracts, and B, to approve the resolution to authorize Lakota local schools to participate in the Ohio Facility Commission Construction Commission Classroom Facilities Assistance Program. Do I have a motion?
So moved?
Do I have a second?
Second.
Do you want to explain a little bit about what that is, Dr.
Two
Webby?
things. Job descriptions, there's one new one in there that's brand new that you've never seen before. That's the field supervisor custodian. And then the other ones are really super small revisions, right? If we talked about that, if a title change happens or any substantial nature, these are really title changes, right? So something as simple as, like the assistant director of curriculum and instruction used to say, of 7 through 12, used to say East beside it. If you remove East, you have to board approve it, right? Or something like adding the word generalist to the receptionist. So very small changes, but the reason you do that, again, putting on the HR hat, is so that Tony's team and HR's team can track that, which then lands into payroll. You want everything to be aligned so that you can follow the history of a job description. So that's why. So there's not anything substantial going on there, and the only new one is the field supervisor. As far as the OFCC resolution, this document, and it's linked there for you to see as well, the OFCC is recommending that we be approved, so the OFCC is approving us to participate in the CFAP, right, the Classroom Facilities Assistance Program. I always have to think about what that means. But by approving this, what it means is that they can then, at their July 9th meeting, allocate the funds for our 33%. So basically, they are saying, we would like to approve you for CFAP. We have to agree to that as well. And then on July 9th, they will go to their committee and say, they're ready and we're ready, and they distribute the funds. Now, that does not mean that we'll get a big check or anything on that day, but it means that those funds would then become available based on the work of that committee on July 9th. So we just need to make sure that we get this approved so that then we can go to that committee who can then delegate the funds to the receiving districts. So this lets us be eligible for the 33% share that would help offset our master facilities plan.
32%.
33.
Any questions? Anybody? Oh, look at us. Mr. Zink, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Wynn?
Yes.
Ms. Casper?
Yes. We have treasurer recommendations A through E. Approve of board minutes. Motion to adopt fiscal year 26 final appropriation. Motion to adopt fiscal year 27 temporary appropriations. Motion to approve fund-to-fund transfer, and a motion to place district data on Ohio checkbook for fiscal year 2027 to be updated quarterly. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Mr. Zink?
Ms. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Wynn?
Yes.
Ms. Casper?
Yes, sorry. Superintendent recommendations, I need a motion A through G. Approve personnel items, summer pay hours, student fees for 26-27, increase in lunch prices, 25 cents at the early childhood and elementary, and 25 cents at junior and high school for the next year, which would make the lunch prices $3.50 at the elementary and ESC and $3.50 in the junior high and high school for the type A lunch, which is just that lunch where they put everything on the tray. Approve contracts, approve resolution declaring transportation impractical for the 26-27 school year, and approve donations. Do I have a motion?
I have a question.
I need a motion, then we can do discussion.
Oh, sorry, I apologize. So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Sorry, I apologize.
That's okay.
Can I understand what the necessity is for the lunches?
Yes, so I'll walk through that. So a couple of things, just starting from the top in A. Personnel items, you see the normal personnel agenda, but you also see kind of our 26-27 needs, right? Everything from like athletics, tournament pay, to the athletic purchase service fees. You'll also see the big one in there, the non-rep salaries and AG 5131, or 1531, excuse me, they all represent the pay increases that we discussed for 26-27. Those ones beyond are not reflected, so you'll see those reflected in those two documents. As far as fees and lunches, so student fees are up for approval. Just kind of reviewing those. In K-6, our students get a kit. Okay, so basically they walk in, they're handed a kit, and it has everything that they need in that kit. Mr. Hatfield worked really closely with our principals to really get aligned. We'd always been kind of aligned in buildings, but we tried to get aligned across buildings and across grade levels. So because we really want our families in K-6 to only have to buy personal items, right? So what I mean by that is backpack, lunchbox, and earpods. And so really, once they pay their student fee, they get everything they need from the classroom, from crayons to markers to glue to pencils. You would be surprised how many glue sticks our littles go through. But then in the 7-12 world, that's different, right? You don't pay for the whole buffet, you pay for a la carte, right? So in 7-12, depending on the classes you sign up for, that dictates what fee you're charged for that particular class. So if you take anatomy and physiology, that's a different fee than English and vice versa. And those are based on student signups. As far as, and you will see at your station there, just a cross-check so that you can see the difference, particularly in K-6, about any increase that might be there. I just wanted you to have those in front of you. As far as lunch, if you remember last year, so for the 25-26 school year, we increased lunch from $3 to $3.25. And actually at that same time, we communicated to our families last year that lunch for this coming year, 26-27, would go up to $3.50. What that means is it is the standard lunch. So not your like your sushi or your snacks or your chips or things or your pizza. It is, to Kelly's point, your kind of tray lunch that has your vegetable, your protein, actually your 2 vegetables and your protein. It's that lunch. The reason for that is, as you can imagine, food prices have increased, and we saw that, knowing that even 2 years ago. And so just to making sure that we try to stay ahead of that. You're never trying to be in the money-making business in child nutrition, but you're also trying to make sure that you're not in the red, right? You want to make sure that you're stable in that. And also there is a fine line with lunches of, yes, you have to be cognizant of price increases and things like that, but you can't overprice yourself so that you see a dip in student lunches, right? So you try to find that sweet spot of what is appropriate to pay the food bill increase while also not decreasing the amount of participation that you have in the lunch program. So that $3.50 should keep us pretty solvent in that. And again, that is the number that we communicated to families last year that they would see for 26-27.
Okay, so that's just taking initiative with expected inflation and not just
Correct.
increasing bottom line.
Correct.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Contracts, you'll see Parent Square, really it's an addendum there, and then the other is for our 2 years for modular units. We could have done 3 years, we chose to do 2 just because of our master facilities discussion. That's just keeping the modular units that we currently have at Cherokee and Van Gordon. And then of course, in the summer, and you'll see it again in August as well, the resolution for declaring transportation impractical. So we just keep kind of doing those on an as-needed basis.
We spoke
Any
about
other
this.
questions?
We spoke about this a little in Finance Committee as well. Cafeteria, general fund can bail out other funds. General funds are most flexible. So if cafeteria goes upside down, the general fund would have to bring that back to whole to be in compliance. We must end fiscal years with not a negative cash balance in any one of our funds as a whole. So that's where always our goal is going to be to not over-collect, not under-collect. We just want it to be just right. So that's definitely, we've worked really hard on that over the last several years, since prior to me being the treasurer, even on our student fee side, really making sure that we didn't over-collect and begin to build reserves in those accounts, because those are, like the cafeteria, is supposed to be just consumable and not to overcharge or undercharge, just make it just right.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Zink, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Nguyen?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer?
Yes.
Ms. Casper?
Yes. We have reached the point where we will do closing comments. Mr. Nguyen, would you like to start?
Yes. Trying to think where to begin. Nothing's really coming to mind. Well, okay, yeah. We have a very, very big event this coming Saturday. We're celebrating 250 years of American greatness, and that in itself is pretty great. And I was trying to think on my way over here, like what's the kind of the lead into, right, 250 years of our country, celebrating that as we look back on our progress, where we've come from and where we're going. I think public education has had a really big role in that. James Madison said that the diffusion of knowledge is really the true guardian of liberty. And I would agree. When I got sworn in, Treasurer McNamara noted about how it was literacy that really, it was the lack of literacy that really contributed to the fall of Saigon, right, in the fall of South Vietnam, where my heritage is from. And as we look back on the 250 years that our country has endured, I think it would be very appropriate for a renewed investment in public education so that we can have another 250 years ahead of us. We think about the military, you think of the workforce, you think of economic growth, development, civil liberties. I think all of that was fostered in a classroom. I would be willing to wager that all of our kids in our military commencement ceremony reached out to a recruiter that they saw in the hallways at Lakota East or Lakota West. So I think there's a lot that public education has contributed to getting us to this point of 250 years, and just ask everybody, particularly our legislators, to keep that in mind. As we celebrate America, let's celebrate every aspect that makes America great, and public education is a big part of that. So thank you, and thank you to this community for the privilege of being able to serve you each and every day.
Mrs. Schaefer.
Thank you to everyone for all the work. I look forward to the strategic plan and our new North Star and where that might take us. Congratulations to Mr. Zink and his entire team for the work. I know how seriously you take your professionalism and how important that award is to you and your team to make sure that you are doing everything you can to be a positive steward and make sure everyone is fully aware and our financials are as transparent as they can possibly be with every transaction out there to be viewed. So appreciate that and look forward to the work continuing. And I'm sure you will do nice things for the district that you move on to, as we accepted your resignation officially tonight as you move forward.
Thank you.
But he still has a few meetings left.
Dr.
We're not over just yet.
That's right, that's right.
Now that it's official.
No, I said to Adam as we sat down, as he honored our student, like, that's your why. right? Our students every day are our wise. We talk about summer opportunities and kids taking advantage of those. It's just nice to be reminded of those, even in the summer, so.
Mr. Zink?
Well, again, congratulations to the entire team, the whole district. It does everybody, the principals, the office managers, department chairs. We have so many coaches, athletic directors. We have so many layers of so many staff that touch something financial, and it all goes into this. So it's really a true team effort across the board that everybody's pulling in the right direction to make sure that we do accomplish these goals. I always said that it wasn't that big of a deal until last year we didn't get it. And then it really felt like it was a very big deal. So I'm glad that we were back and able to get that. And I have definitely enjoyed my time. We do have another couple meetings left, but putting the resignation on tonight, that was, it's a bittersweet feeling. But looking forward to the next chapter for just for me and my family. I think this one's it's a lot to do with priorities that I didn't think that would shift the way they have. So, but looking forward to the next month and getting Lakota off on the right foot. Mr. Bertram going to be taking over. The district will be in great hands, and we'll make sure that all of these little quirky things that we've made normal here, that he just knows what to keep an eye on. So that's all I have. Thanks.
That's right, we know your phone number.
Me and Mr. Bertram live in the same neighborhood
That's
now.
right.
So
That is so
yeah, we
hilarious.
didn't realize that at the time. I
Well-
didn't realize that till it was right over. So hopefully he doesn't come ringing the doorbell too often. If I do a good job transitioning, he'll leave me alone, I'm sure.
You don't have a Ring doorbell camera now, you'll be getting one in the new house. Again, congratulations, Adam, and your team. And again, like Mrs. Schaefer said, you work really hard to make sure that everything is clean and we get a good audit. But I do want to point out, I don't know if, when you think about how many entities are audited and how few get this award, I think we've gotten it so much that we maybe take that for granted, but it is a really big deal that not many people get. So kudos to you, congratulations. Dr. Whiteley, thank you for what you've been doing all summer. And, I had somebody the other day say, oh, what have you been doing since you're off in the summer? And I'm like, yeah, we're not off in the summer. We're preparing for the next year. So thank you, everyone. Everybody have a safe holiday, a safe 4th of July, and enjoy fireworks somewhere. I fear I won't be sleeping much for Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because there's a lot of fireworks in my neighborhood. Anyway, with that, we are going to take a motion to enter into executive session to consider the employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official, per Ohio Revised Code 121.22 G1A, to consider the investigation of charges or complaints against a public employee, per Ohio Revised Code 121.22 G1B, and for the sale of property and competitive bidding because premature disclosure of information would give an unfair competitive or bargaining advantage to a person whose personal private interest is diverse to the general public interest, Ohio Revised Code 121.22 G2B. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. Zink, will you please call the roll?
Ms. Schaefer?
Yes.
Mr. Wynn?
Yes.
Ms. Casper?
Yes. We will only be taking the action of dismissal upon returning, or adjourning. Dismissal, adjourning, leaving.
Who are we dismissing? No.